This is Standing Watch. And now, Evangelist Norbert Link.
Greetings everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. It has been announced as the most fundamental historical event. It has been claimed as a great advancement and at the same time as a dangerous move. I'm talking about, of course, President Trump's speech on Wednesday, saying that he was now recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and also saying that he would transfer the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The reaction was forthcoming. Just about everybody, when it comes to high-ranking politicians, condemned him for this move. Everybody outside the United States and outside Israel. However, the media was a little bit mixed in their reaction. Some felt it was a right move, and I've read papers in Germany saying this. Others, of course, condemned it. But the Middle East, apart from Israel, condemned it unanimously. And so the question is, what did this move do? What kind of consequences will it have? Some say it's going to be a terrible consequence of violence again, breaking out over there. But of course, when it comes to the Middle East, it doesn't take much for an outbreak of violence. I like you to listen to me when I am quoting from the transcript of the speech President Trump gave. And I want to analyze a little bit what he said and what he didn't say. It says the New York Times, which published the transcript on December 6, stated that President Trump officially recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, reversing decades of American foreign policy. And here is what President Trump actually said. In 1995, Congress adopted the Jerusalem Embassy Act, urging the federal government to relocate the American embassy to Jerusalem and to recognize that that city, and so importantly, is Israel's capital. This act passed Congress by an overwhelming bipartisan majority and was reaffirmed by unanimous vote of the Senate only 6 months ago. Yet, for over 20 years, every previous American president has exercised the law's waiver, refusing to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem or to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital city. He goes on to say, after more than 2 decades of waivers, we are no closer to a lasting peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. It would be folly to assume that repeating the exact same formula would now produce a different or better result. It was 60 years ago that the United States under President Truman recognized the State of Israel. Ever since then, Israel has made its capital in the city of Jerusalem, the capital the Jewish people established in ancient times. Jerusalem is today and must remain a place where Jews pray at the Western Wall, where Christians walk the Stations of the Cross, and where Muslims worship at Al-Aqsa Mosque. Consistent with the Jerusalem Embassy Act, I'm also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This will immediately begin the process of hiring architects, engineers, and planners so that a new embassy, when completed, will be a magnificent tribute to peace. The United States would support a 2-state solution if agreed to by both sides. In the meantime, I call on all parties to maintain the status quo at Jerusalem's holy sites, including the Temple Mount, also known as Haram al-Sharif. And these are the key statements in President Trump's speech. Now, even the conservative website Fox News gave the following analysis on December 7. With his speech about moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, President Trump is taking a controversial step, but not going all the way, taking a kind of halfway measure that fulfills a campaign promise but does not necessarily have immediate consequences. He has become the first president since Israel's founding in 1948 to recognize Jerusalem as the capital, although other presidential candidates have talked about doing so. At the same time, he is signing a waiver to keep the embassy in Tel Aviv for another 6 months, and officials say it could take years, some say 3 to 4 years, to build an embassy in Jerusalem. Much of this is about the politics of symbolism, but the negative reaction in the Arab world, given Jerusalem's divided status, is all too real. Some people in Gaza City and Rafah yesterday took to the streets chanting "Death to America, death to Israel, down with Trump." But the president, perhaps out of diplomatic sensitivity, did not immediately move the embassy. He could have ordered a sign placed on the existing U.S. consulate in Jerusalem declaring it the new embassy. Instead, he gets to declare victory on an issue important to some American Jews and evangelical voters. This split-the-difference approach is almost a replay of what Trump did with the Dreamers program. He had Jeff Sessions announce that the administration is ending the Obama-era decision to shield immigrants who were under 18 when their families brought them here illegally, but then granted a 6-month extension. The move pleased immigration hardliners, but Trump also said he wants to negotiate a new law with congressional Democrats that would permanently protect the Dreamers. In October, the president disavowed the Iran nuclear deal, but stopped short of killing the Obama agreement. Trump refused to certify that Iran was complying with terms and threatened to abandon the deal, as he promised during the campaign, but he essentially kicked it to Congress. In each case, a president has reaped the political benefit of proclaiming what he believes to be a popular stance, while at the same time limiting or delaying the practical impact. But given the volatile nature of the Middle East, the split-the-difference approach may have more immediate consequences, especially on Jared Kushner's efforts to broker some kind of peace agreement. But that didn't seem to be making much progress anyway. So far, the very insightful comments by Fox News. Now, they also wrote on December 5 about the attempt to please the evangelicals. They said that about 60 million evangelicals have, to a great extent, voted for President Trump against Hillary Clinton. And they interviewed longtime pastor John Hagee, who said this: "He will be remembered for thousands of years for his act of courage to treat Israel like we already treat other nations. But if he does not, so in other words, if he does not recognize Jerusalem as a capital, or if he does not move the embassy to Jerusalem, because he said these things just the day before the official announcement came, if he does not, he will be remembered as just another president who made a promise he failed to keep, which would generate massive disappointments in that strong evangelical base that went to vote for him against Hillary Clinton." Now, what is going to happen to these many, many voters if they were to realize that the announcement was made, but nothing follows in practical terms? Apart from this, there have been a lot of warnings given. The Pope was against it. Of course, the entire Arab world was against it. The European leadership was and is against it. Turkey came out saying, if Mr. Trump does that, then we are going to perhaps even prompt Turkey to cut off ties with Israel. And so more and more of these interesting developments have taken place. Another thing to consider is that the Palestinians, of course, want to have a two-state solution. Mr. Trump said in his speech, if both sides agree, the United States would support it. Of course, both sides will not agree, because to Israel, Jerusalem has to be the undivided capital. But I like to bring out another point, which is very important to recognize in this context, because we could speak with Shakespeare, much ado about nothing. Because notice what President Trump did and didn't say. And some commentators have already pointed that out. He didn't say that Jerusalem was the exclusive capital of Israel. He did say that he supports and would support a two-state solution if both sides agree, of course, which is not going to happen. He did say that the status quo at the Temple Mount is not to be changed, meaning that Muslims are to be able to worship at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He even recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, not excluding, again I emphasize, not excluding the possibility that the eastern part of Jerusalem might also become the capital of a Palestinian state. But at the same time, he signed again this waiver, the 6-month waiver, and he is going to repeat signing it and signing it and signing it until finally the idea has come to fruition to have this embassy in Jerusalem officially declared. Now, he might do this just before the election. We don't know exactly what is going to happen, but it's not going to happen, apparently, in his mind, anytime soon. Now, what is interesting is that the Bible prophesies that there is going to be a third temple, which is going to be built on the Temple Mount. So the status quo will change. Many feel that the temple is going to be built exactly at the place where today the Al-Aqsa Mosque is situated. Can you imagine the consequences when, let's say, the Al-Aqsa Mosque would have to be dismantled so that a temple could be built? Can you imagine the uproar, the violence which is going to happen then? And it looks like that America is not going to be viewed as the power which is going to prevent violence from breaking out or dealing with it appropriately. At least that's how the Europeans feel now. And I found this article by Deutsche Welle from December 6 extremely interesting. The former German ambassador to Israel, Rudolf Dressler, was interviewed. And he, of course, is totally opposed to the embassy move. And listen to what he had to say. America is out of the picture. Germany even said recently, the vice chancellor of Germany said, the relationship between Germany and the United States will never ever be the same. And he spoke about Germany first. But the former ambassador said, now Russia, China and the EU will take over this role. Now, Russia and China, that's debatable. The EU, no question. He went on to say, if renewed violence should become a reality, then notice, Germany and all of its EU partners will have a lot to deal with. We have to determine how to reformulate the EU's role against the backdrop of Trump and Netanyahu's policies in Israel. My friend, that is exactly what the Bible prophesies. A United States of Europe will intervene militarily in the Middle East to bring, quote-unquote, peace to the region, which is by that time apparently in turmoil. It's not going to be America, it's not going to be Russia, it's not going to be whatever other party and power you might quote. It's going to be a United States of Europe army. I also find it interesting that today Martin Schulz, the SPD candidate who originally said he will never have a coalition with Angela Merkel and now he is trying to reconsider, he gave a very interesting speech today to his party base in which he said that by 2025 at the latest we will have a United States of Europe. And those countries which don't want to participate will have to be asked to leave. Again, looking into the concept of a two-speed Europe, a Europe consisting of corner and important states, which will be different from the rest of Europe. You see, all of this is prophesied, all of this is going to happen, and perhaps a lot closer and sooner than 2025, or even within the next 4 years. It could happen very much quicker. And so you need to be aware of these things, and we have certain booklets prepared, free booklets, which can help you understanding what is going on in the Middle East, what is going on with Israel. One is called The Fall and Rise of the Jewish People. And then we have another booklet which talks about Europe in prophecy, showing you what I briefly outlined today, how Europe, in accordance with the Bible, will intervene in the Middle East to bring peace and occupy the Holy Land. Until next time, this is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.
Standing Watch is a presentation by The Church of the Eternal God, P.O. Box 270519, San Diego, California 92198. More information is also available at our website, eternalgod.org.